Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everybody. Great to be with you once again together this Thursday evening as we gather in the obedience of Allah, as we gather for the concern of the Ummah, and as we gather for Masjid al-Aqsa. And it is only through the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we've once again been able to fast yet another Thursday, and this in following the sunnah of the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and out of a concern for Masjid al-Aqsa as our additional intention. We've got an important message this evening that I'd like to share, and this is the message that was previously shared at the Palestine Information Network Travel Seminar, and it was delivered by Maulana Shabir Musa Adam. And in this particular message, he highlights for us to increase our love for Masjid al-Aqsa the three amazing du'as that were made by Sulayman alayhi salam, the great prophet of Allah, the prophet of Islam. And in these du'as features Masjid al-Aqsa and features the land of Masjid al-Aqsa. And what is amazing is that in these du'as we can form part of the du'a of a great prophet that was seconded by the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. Let's take a listen to this important message to remember us, the entire Ummah, Masjid al-Aqsa, the people of Gaza who've just come out of yet another tormenting assault. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help them, raise them, and defeat the oppressors and the tormentors.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده لا أمة بعد أمتي لا كتاب بعد كتابي لا شريعة بعد شريعتي أما بعد فيقول ربنا جل وعلا في كتابه الكريم لقد جاءكم رسول من أنفسكم عزيز عليه ما عنتم حريص عليكم بالمؤمنين رؤوف رحيم فإن تولوا فقل حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم. As always, we begin with the praises of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most kind, the most merciful, the benevolent. We send peace, salutation, and the choicest of blessings upon Sayyiduna Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma fasalli wa sallim wa an'im wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Sulayman alayhi salam, it comes in the narrations that after Sayyiduna Dawood alayhi salam began the construction of the Masjid al-Aqsa, and he passed away before the completion of al-Masjid al-Aqsa, and this task was given to Sayyiduna Sulayman alayhi salatu was-salam. When Sulayman alayhi salatu wassalam completed, as Quran described this moment, he completed the building of al-Masjid al-Aqsa. He went and he stood on Qubbatul Sahra, on the dome of the rock, where we see the pictures of al-Masjid al-Aqsa. He went and he stood on al-Masjid al-Aqsa, on al-Qubbatul Sahra, the dome of the rock, a huge rock, only the tip of which you will visually see when you enter into Qubbatul Sahra. In fact, historians have written that the entire Qubbatul Sahra, it spreads the entire 144,000 square meters under the boundary of al-Masjid al-Aqsa. What we see is only the tip of it. Sulayman alayhi salam went and he stood there. And in some narrations, there are various narrations, he made three du'as to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Listen to this carefully, amazing. He said that, "Oh Allah," Nabi alayhi salatu was salam, there are various narrations, I'm just using the most accurate in terms of academic criticism. He said, "Thalathatu da'watin." Sulayman alayhi salam made three du'as. One of those, رَبِّ هَبْ لِي مُلْكًا لَا يَنْبَغِي لِأَحَدٍ مِّن بَعْدِي. that Allah bestow me with such a kingdom, such a leadership, that it is impossible that this ever be emulated for mankind to come. Allah accepted that dua of Sulayman alayhi salatu wassalam. Allama ibn Kathir rahimahullah has written one of the great amazing works of our tradition, Al-Bidaya wa Nihaya, which means the beginnings and the end. He's covered a history from the beginning of mankind till his century, which was the 8th century of Islam. And he wrote potentially, probably, what is the most detailed work of our history from the creation until the 8th century of Hijri. An amazing work. In there, he's written one point, he said that historically, there have only been 4 people who ever ruled the entire known earth. The entire known earth they ruled. 2 of those were non-Muslim. One of those was Namrud, the tyrant of the time of Sayyiduna Ibrahim alayhis salam. And the other was Bukht al-Nasr, Nebuchadnezzar, who resided in Babylon, or what is modern day Iraq. And he ruled, these were the 2 disbelievers, non-believers, who ruled the entire earth. And the 2 believers who ruled the entire earth, one of those was Sikandar Dhul Qarnayn, wa yas'alunaka 'an Dhil Qarnayn. And the other of those was Sulayman alayhi salam. But none of those enjoyed the authority and the leadership that Sulayman alayhi salam enjoyed. Allah accepted his dua to such an extent that even the non-tangible creations were under the command of Sulayman alayhi salam. فَسَخَّرْنَا لَهُ الرِّيحِ. Things which were non-tangible by our measurements, Sulayman alayhi salam had control over the wind. Today we marvel over an A380. Sulayman alayhi salam long had an A600. When his carpet landed, and there would be first class, business class, and economy class, even in Sulayman, I don't know about points, I can't tell you about that, upgrades, but Mufassirun have written this, that there would be the most important ministers in first class, and the jinnat would be seated right at the back in economy. I'm hinting, those like me who sit in economy, maybe we have some connection somewhere, wallahu alam. Anyway, so Sulayman alayhi salam, Allah gave him such a command that Rabbi habli mulkan la yanbaghi li ahadin min ba'di. Sulayman alayhi salam's first dua he made, standing after building Masjid al-Aqsa and Qubbat al-Sahra, Allah accepted the dua. The second dua Sulayman alayhi salam made, Rabbi habli hukman. Oh Allah, bestow me with the ability of a fair and an insightful judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted, فَفَهَّمْنَاهَا Sulayman. That we gave instruction and intelligence of judgment to Sulayman alayhi salam. The third dua Sulayman alayhi salam made, that, oh Allah, I completed this magnificent structure of Al-Masjid al-Aqsa. Don't be deceived. Those who are visiting, don't be deceived that I'm coming there and I'm expecting to see the magnificence of the white marbled aircon tiles and the magical umbrellas that open and close that we, for some reason, video and re-video and recapture. And I don't see all of that. What is this structure about? The insignificant. Don't ever undermine it. Nabi alayhi salam, when he visited Masjid al-Aqsa, he stood there on the boundaries. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, perhaps it will be covered in the later segments. Nabi alayhi salam, when he was in Masjid al-Aqsa, Jibreel alayhi salam went and he pointed out the entire boundary of the masjid to Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam. This is not insignificant. Remember, our significance, the spiritual significance of space in our context is not by a physical structure. It's not by a physical structure. The declaration of a masjid, if I declare this a masjid, so it is declared whether it has a physical structure or not. We need to keep this in mind, because we will come there with some level of expectation and not see it, and then suddenly the motivation drops there. We don't look at physical structure, it is irrelevant and immaterial. Absolutely to the core. We should keep this principle in mind. Nonetheless, so Sulayman alayhi salam said that, oh Allah, I built this structure, and now there are going to be people who are going to be coming for various reasons here. Oh Allah, I'm asking you that the person who comes, la yata'arrad illa an yastashfiya. Oh Allah, there will be people who will come here and they will seek shifa and they will seek to be cured from their illnesses. Oh Allah, grant them cure. Oh Allah, there will others who will be coming here for other needs and purposes. Oh Allah, whatever purpose a person comes for to seek forgiveness, forgive them. And he made a long dua. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replied, Sulayman, do you know what value I attach to this place? That man arada an yakhruja ila bayt al-maqdis la ya'nihi illa raka'atayn. He leaves from his home. The only motivation that he goes there for is not, forgive me, is not motivated by a political motivation. It's not motivated by a political cause. I seek forgiveness for this. It's not motivated by any nationalistic cause. Sulayman, they come here only to read 2 raka'ats of salah. That's all. All of the expenses, all of the effort, all of the trouble, all of the risk, all of the borders, everything. Only to read 2 raka'ats here in al-Masjid al-Aqsa. غَفَرْتُ لَهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِهِ وَمَا تَأَخَّرَ. I have forgiven every one of his past sins. I have forgiven. Only 2 raka'ats. I'll end on this point just because I'm forced. Ulama have written, what was the reason that Mi'raj took place from Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa? Some of the zahir and the obvious reason. Ulama have mentioned that the system of Allah was that whichever place was meant to be muqaddas and sanctified in the sight of Allah, it was mandatory and necessary that the forehead of Imam al-Anbiya had to come and give the stamp of authority of taqdees of that place. Darun Nubuwah, Nabi alayhi salam, the Baytullah was sanctified. But when the forehead of Imam al-Anbiya was placed on that ground, فَتَمَّ دَارُ النُّبُوَّةِ, that became complete as the home of Nubuwah. And when the Imam al-Anbiya, the head and the body, was on the land of Medina Munawwara, فَتَمَّ دَارُ الْهِجْرَةِ, and the dar and the home of migration became complete in Makkah. The last place that was remaining was Al-Aqsa. Therefore, that's why our aqidah is that the Mi'raj took place physically. The Nabi alayhi salam was physically present, physically placed his head on the land of Al-Aqsa. فَتَمَّ تَقْدِيسُ دَارُ الْمِعْرَاجِ. And therefore the taqdees and the muqaddas and the sanctification of the land of Mi'raj became attached to the rest of the muqaddas lands in our tradition. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq understanding.